Hello everyone, and welcome to Sleep Triggers ASMR. You're about to enter a world where horror whispers gently in the dark. Where shadows tell stories, and the rain keeps you company. Tonight's tale will guide you through fear, softly wrapped in sound. Don't worry, you're safe here with me. Let the unease comfort you, and let each sound pull you deeper into rest. If you enjoy these immersive horror sleep experiences, please like, subscribe, and tap the so you'll never miss a night. I'll be here, waiting, every night, to tell you another story. Now, close your eyes. Take a deep breath. And let the story begin. The road to Mason Ridge Middle School was carved through woods that felt older than the town itself. The trees leaned in close, like they were watching, listening, waiting. Sam Chambers sat quietly in the back seat of his mother's car, his headphones in, but no music playing. He liked the illusion of isolation, even if it didn't stop the creeping sense that something wasn't quite right. It was just another transfer, his fourth school in 3 years. His mom called it a fresh start, like she always did. Sam just called it temporary. The school appeared suddenly, emerging from the trees like a structure trying to hide. It was made of pale brick and dark windows, some of them boarded up. A wide front lawn stretched before it, the grass strangely uneven, as though it had been dug up and replanted too many times. Mason Ridge had been closed for over 2 decades, he was told, and only recently reopened after renovations. But nothing about it looked new. The windows were clouded, the paint peeled in strips, and a faint line of soot marked the upper edges of the science wing, as if fire had once tried to claim it. When Sam stepped through the front doors, everything fell silent. Not quiet, silent. The kind of hush that makes your ears feel full. The kind of silence that listens back. Locker number 119, said the vice principal, handing Sam a metal key. Her voice was sharp, as though speaking louder might awaken something better left sleeping. Sam took the key, its edges worn smooth by fingers that no longer used it. Do not leave items in your locker overnight, she added abruptly. We encourage students to take their belongings home each day. He blinked. Why? She smiled too quickly. Humidity. The hallways of Mason Ridge were wide and dim, lit by flickering overhead lights that buzzed faintly. As Sam walked, every step echoed too long, like the floor was hollow beneath him. Locker 119 was at the far end of C Hall, a section of the school that branched off and curved slightly, forming a quiet arc of darkness. Most lockers in that hall were numbered in the 200s, but somehow his was 119, the only one of its kind along that stretch of corridor. It looked older, too, taller than the others, with rust creeping from its corners like veins. He inserted the key and turned. The locker door creaked open just slightly before sticking. He pulled harder, and with a metallic groan, it gave way. Inside was nothing. But the space felt wrong. It was too dark, too deep. Like the shadows inside didn't belong to the hallway. Sam leaned in, peering into the empty metal box. For a moment, he thought he heard something. A whisper. So faint he couldn't be sure it was real. Hello. He stepped back quickly. The sound stopped. Probably just airflow. Maybe an echo. Still, he closed the locker door a little faster than necessary. Lunch was uneventful. The cafeteria smelled of bleach and canned peaches, and the other students gave him the usual half-curious, half-indifferent glances reserved for new kids. He sat beside a girl named Maya, who had a quiet sort of confidence. She was reading a yellowed paperback book titled Ghosts of the Northeast. Locker 119, she said without looking up. Unlucky number. Sam blinked. What? Maya turned a page. That locker. You've got it, don't you? He nodded slowly. Yeah. Why? She finally met his eyes. Her voice dropped a little. Don't lean into it too long. Some people say it talks back. That night, Sam dreamed of falling. Not in a normal way, this was different. He wasn't tumbling through air. He was falling through steel. The walls were tight, and they hummed with distant whispers. Hands reached out from behind metal slats, trying to grab his ankles, his wrists. He tried to scream, but his voice vanished before it left his throat. He woke up sweating, heart racing. A whisper lingered in his ears. You opened it. The next morning, Sam returned to the locker. There were scratches on the inside now. Faint. New. Thin grooves on the metal wall, just beneath eye level. He ran his fingers over them. They didn't spell anything, at least not yet, but they hadn't been there the day before. He told himself he was imagining things. That the dream had messed with his perception. But when he closed the locker and turned to walk away, he could have sworn the door shifted, just slightly, like something inside had moved to press against it. Watching. Waiting. In third period, a substitute teacher wheeled in a creaking cart of old textbooks. She looked nervous, her hands trembling as she passed them out. One of the books had a name scribbled in it, T. Haldeman. Sam thought nothing of it, until Maya leaned over and whispered, "That name's not supposed to be here." He raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" He disappeared. Years ago. Supposedly locked himself in your locker and never came back out. Sam laughed. Nervously. Maya didn't smile. They say if you listen closely, you can still hear him. Trying to finish what he started. The rest of the day passed in a haze. The lights flickered more often. A strange smell, like damp earth, lingered in the hall near his locker. A janitor passed by with a mop but didn't make eye contact. That night, Sam lay awake, staring at the ceiling. His backpack sat at the foot of his bed, untouched. He hadn't brought anything home from school, too distracted, too unsettled. He thought about the key to locker 119, still in his jacket pocket. He could return it. Ask for a different one. But something told him that wouldn't help. The locker wasn't assigned to him. It had chosen him. By the third day, Sam had stopped trying to explain the sound to himself. It wasn't the pipes. It wasn't faulty ventilation. It wasn't in his head. Because each morning when he walked down C Hall, before the first bell rang, before the other students arrived, the whispering had already started. It didn't come from everywhere. Just one place. Locker 119. Not loud. Never loud. Just soft. Like someone was standing just behind the door, speaking through the metal. He never caught full words, only fragments. Stay. Don't go. He's still here. The school itself didn't help. Mason Ridge felt increasingly unreal with each passing day. Sam noticed details that shifted subtly when he wasn't paying attention. A poster in the hallway would be ripped in the morning, pristine by lunch. The clocks ticked too fast, then slowed. Once, he swore he saw the same student walk past him twice in the span of 30 seconds, both times going in opposite directions. When he told Maya, she just nodded. "Time doesn't work right here," she said matter-of-factly. "Not since the fire." Sam frowned. "What fire?" Maya looked away. "You won't find it online. They buried it." That afternoon, Sam opened his locker again. This time, there was something inside. Not an object. Not a person. Just cold. A sharp, unnatural chill that rushed out and sank into his bones. The kind that doesn't belong in a room, much less inside a metal box. He shivered and stepped back instinctively. And then he saw the new scratches. Different from before. This time, they spelled something. STY. Sam's breath caught in his throat. He reached out slowly, running his fingers along the letters. The grooves were fresh. Still sharp. Like they had been carved that morning. His heart pounded. He slammed the locker shut. From behind the door, he thought he heard a breath. That night, Sam returned to the school. He couldn't explain why. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the dreams. Maybe it was the sense that if he didn't face whatever was happening, it would come find him anyway. He entered through the side gym door. It had a broken latch Maya had pointed out earlier. The building was silent. Dark. Only the emergency lights cast long, eerie glows along the linoleum floors. He made his way toward C Hall. Locker 119 stood there, exactly where it always did. Quiet now. Still. But as Sam approached, the air changed. The temperature dropped, and the floor beneath him creaked, not like tiles. Like wood. Like boards. Old ones. He knelt beside the locker, placed his ear against it. For a moment, nothing. Then, Sam. His name. Whispered like a secret through layers of rust and memory. He yanked back, heart pounding. The next morning, he was exhausted. Pale. He couldn't focus in class, and his hands trembled whenever he touched the key to the locker. Maya noticed. "You went back, didn't you?" He nodded slowly. "It said my name." Maya leaned closer. Her voice was almost inaudible. "That's how it begins. Once it knows you, it doesn't forget." Sam stared at her. "What is it?" She didn't answer immediately. She looked at her tray of food, untouched, then back at him. "There was a boy," she said. "Years ago. Nobody really remembers him now. Except the school. He was lonely. Kept to himself. People said he started talking to his locker. Said it talked back. At first, they laughed. Then he stopped showing up. Just vanished." Sam swallowed hard. "And his locker was 119. He decided to try something. After school, he brought an old tape recorder to the locker. Nothing high-tech. Just an old analog machine he found in his mom's closet. He placed it inside, closed the door gently, and walked away. 20 minutes later, he came back. Heart racing. Hands cold. He pressed play. At first, static. Then, a hum. Then a faint click. And then, you opened me. He's not gone. Let me finish. Then a gasp. Not quite human. Then silence. Then, Sam. He dropped the recorder. That night, he didn't sleep. Instead, he sat at his desk, staring at the key. The metal looked darker somehow. Tainted. His phone buzzed. A message from Maya. Check the yearbook archives. Library basement. Look for 1974. Nothing else. The next day, during study hall, Sam slipped away to the library. Ms. Kepler, the librarian, was asleep at her desk, a heavy blanket over her lap and a mug of cold tea nearby. She didn't stir as he crept past and opened the basement door. The stairs were steep and narrow. Dust hung in the air like breath. At the bottom was a locked metal cabinet. But the key from locker 119, somehow, fit perfectly. Inside, rows of old yearbooks. Most yellowed with age, their covers curling. He pulled out the one from 1974. The pages were brittle. He flipped through carefully. Page after page of black and white faces, smiling in washed-out tones. Until he saw it. A class photo, one student blurred out. A shadow where their face should be. Below it, the name. Thomas Halderman. He ran his finger over the name. But it didn't feel like ink. It felt like skin. From upstairs, something creaked. He froze. Another creak. Then the sound of a locker door slamming shut. Over and over. The sound echoed through the building like thunder wrapped in steel. He ran. All the way out the side door, into the sunlight, heart threatening to escape his chest. That night, he didn't return to the school. But he couldn't stay away either. Because when he tried to sleep, he saw the photo again. The blurred face. The name. The locker. And the whisper that came with it. "Let me out, Sam. I'm not done yet." The school looked different in the morning light. Not better, just stranger. Like it was trying to mimic normalcy, and doing a poor job of it. The bricks looked a little too pale. The flagpole leaned slightly to the left, like it was wilting. Even the students seemed off, smiling too wide, laughing just a second too long. Sam moved through the halls like a ghost, unsure whether he was awake or still dreaming. In his backpack was the yearbook from 1974. He hadn't shown it to anyone. Not yet. But it burned in his bag like it knew. He waited until lunch to confront Maya. They sat at their usual table, far corner, under the dim light that always flickered even when the rest of the cafeteria worked fine. Sam placed the book between them and opened it to the photo. The class of 1974. Third row. Fifth from the left. The face that wasn't there. Just a smear, like the film had melted during development. And the name beneath it, Thomas Haldeman. Maya stared at the page for a long time. Then finally whispered, "He's not supposed to be visible." Sam blinked. "What do you mean?" She swallowed. "That's the thing. Every time someone finds an old copy, it's different. Sometimes it's just his name. Sometimes even that's gone. One girl said she saw herself in his place." "Why?" Maya didn't answer. She just closed the book. Some things don't want to be remembered. But they need to be. Later that afternoon, Sam visited the office under the pretense of getting a new locker assignment. The secretary, Ms. Broder, gave him a tight-lipped smile. "Locker 119 is yours, Sam. We don't do switches for personal preference." "It's not personal," he said. "It's unsafe." Her smile never wavered. Humidity can do strange things to metal. But it's nothing to be afraid of. He left without another word. As he turned the corner, he glanced back. She was still watching him. Still smiling. That night, the dreams came back. But this time, they were sharper. Like memory instead of fiction. He was standing in the hallway. Alone. The lockers were gone. The floor bare and cold. And at the end of the corridor, a door. Heavy. Rusted. Bolted from the outside. From within, something scratched. Then whispered. I showed them what was under the floor. They locked me away. I'm still here. Sam reached out, touching the bolt. The door breathed, and the dream collapsed into black. He woke up at 3:13 a.m. His hands were dirty, with soil. By Friday, the yearbook had changed. Sam opened it again during free period. This time, the blurred image of Thomas Halderman had formed. Just slightly. A jawline. The faint outline of eyes. A shadow where the mouth should be. Like a photo in development. Slowly coming to life. Worse still, the other names around his head started to fade. Maya's name. Mr. Kasner's. Even the principal. It was like Thomas was reclaiming space. Unerasing himself. Why now? Sam asked aloud. He wasn't even sure who he was talking to anymore. Maya answered anyway. Because you heard him, she said quietly. That's how it works. The moment someone listens long enough, it wakes. Sam looked at her, eyes wide. Then what? She didn't answer. She just looked at the key. Don't let it out. That afternoon, he made a decision. He would return the yearbook to the basement. Lock it away. Maybe that would stop it. He slipped down during final period, through the side stairwell. The basement air felt thicker. Wet. Moldy. But something was wrong. The cabinet was already open. The other yearbooks were gone. And at the back of the cabinet, a hole. No larger than a crawlspace. Dug through the stone wall. Leading somewhere black and deep and breathing. He dropped the book. Something inside moved. A hand. Gray, thin, half-formed. Reaching through the dark. Then a voice, louder now. Closer. I remember everything, Sam. Especially the ones who watch and do nothing. Sam stumbled back, heart pounding, scrambling up the stairs two at a time. When he slammed the basement door behind him, he heard the lock click. But not by his hand. From the inside. The next morning, the locker was gone. Locker 119. Just gone. Replaced by smooth brick, like it had never existed. But the key was still in Sam's pocket. And the whisper still in his ear. By Monday morning, Sam had begun to forget things. Not important things, at least, not at first. It started with little details, locker combinations, the way to his third period class, the name of the vice principal. Gone. Blurred like chalk in rain. He tried to write things down, but even his own handwriting seemed unfamiliar now. The letters tilted in odd directions, as if they belonged to someone else. The only thing he remembered perfectly was locker 119. Even though it no longer existed. Even though the wall where it had been now stood smooth, unmarked. Even though everyone around him insisted it had never been there in the first place. Maybe it never was, Maya said quietly. They sat by the football field, where no one else ever went anymore. The bleachers groaned in the wind. The sky hung too low. What if we imagined it? She continued. A kind of shared hallucination. Sam didn't respond. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out the key. The brass was darker now. Wetter. Warmer. It pulsed faintly in his hand, like something still alive. I don't think we made it up, he said. I think everything else is the lie. The dreams got worse. This time, there were no whispers. Just digging. He saw it clearly, an endless crawlspace beneath the school, carved out of damp soil and broken stone. Wooden beams sagged overhead. Mold grew in long threads from the ceiling. Something moved through it. Not crawling. Not walking. Just drifting. Like fog with bones. And wherever it passed, the dirt turned black. The floorboards above creaked in pain. He woke to find dirt under his fingernails again, and scratches on the soles of his shoes. At school, he approached Ms. Kepler, the librarian. Do you have any blueprints for the building? He asked. She looked at him over her glasses, blinking slowly. Mason Ridge was built in 1953, she said. Rebuilt in '76 after the incident. What incident? She smiled politely. Just a pipe burst. Sam hesitated. Do you have the floor plans? She gestured toward a file cabinet near the back. Third drawer. But mind the dust. Some things down there haven't been touched since the '70s. The blueprints confirmed what he suspected. There was a sub-basement. Not listed on the official plans, but clearly outlined in faded pencil on the original draft. It lay directly under Sea Hall, and directly beneath where locker 119 used to be. It had no stair access. Just a crawl tunnel. Marked only with one word, sealed. That night, he returned. He brought gloves, a flashlight, and rope. Maya came with him, silent the whole way. They pried open the basement cabinet again. The tunnel was still there. No breeze. No smell. Just darkness like a mouth. Sam went first. The tunnel was tighter than he expected. His shoulders scraped the sides. Roots hung like veins. His flashlight flickered every time he breathed. Maya followed, her voice low and steady. It's not really a tunnel. It's a scar. Sam didn't ask what she meant. After 10 minutes, the tunnel opened. Not into a room, into something older. The space beneath the school wasn't man-made. The floor was natural stone. The walls were dirt and bone. Wooden slats had been jammed into the walls like makeshift supports. Many had rotted. Some bore claw marks. In the center stood a single object. A locker. Rust-eaten. Bent. But unmistakable. Locker 119. Exactly as it had been. Waiting. Sam stepped forward. The key was hot in his palm now, vibrating softly. He raised it toward the lock. Maya grabbed his arm. "Don't." He looked at her. "It has to end. You don't know what's inside." "I don't need to," Sam said. He turned the key. The lock clicked. The door swung open. And the earth groaned. Inside was no shelf. No books. No old papers. Just a hole. Carved downward. Farther than it should go. Farther than the earth should allow. And from within, a voice. But not whispered now. Not hidden. "We used to be real. Then they paved us over. But memory leaks." Then another voice. Familiar. Soft. "Help me." Sam leaned closer. And saw a face. His own. But older. Eyes hollow. Skin cracked. Like clay left to rot in the sun. It reached up. Sam screamed. And fell. Darkness. Then silence. Then the sound of lockers slamming. One by one. Like a heartbeat made of metal. When Sam awoke, he was back in bed. Clean. Safe. No dirt on his hands. No scratches on his shoes. Except locker 119 was back. Exactly where it used to be. As if it had never left. Except now, every locker around it was sealed shut. Like they were trying to contain it. And above locker 119, a nameplate had been added. Not a number anymore. Just a name. Sam Halderman. It rained the next morning. Not a normal kind of rain, but heavy, muddy, like the sky was washing something off its hands. Sam walked into school soaked to the bone. No one else seemed wet. No one else seemed to notice that the air smelled like earth and iron. Locker 119 was there. Waiting. With his name on it. He didn't open it. Didn't even touch it. But as he passed, he heard something click from inside. Like a pen uncapping. Or a jaw unlocking. Maya didn't show up that day. No texts. No calls. No excuses. Sam checked the attendance list on the teacher's laptop when she stepped away. Maya Edison wasn't listed. Not as absent. Not as enrolled. Not at all. It was as if she'd never existed. But Sam still had the photograph. A selfie from 3 weeks ago, on the bleachers, both of them laughing. Except, in the photo, only he was there. And beside him, just an empty spot. Blurred. Like the lens had refused to capture her. He went to the principal's office. Not for answers. For permission. Something inside him had shifted. He wasn't sure when. Maybe it was when he unlocked the locker. Maybe it was when he fell. Maybe it was always there, just waiting to be remembered. The principal, Mr. Eastman, sat behind his desk, sipping coffee from a chipped Mason Ridge mug. His tie was crooked. His eyes were bloodshot. "Something I can help you with, Sam?" "Yes," Sam said calmly. "I want to know what's under the school." A pause. Then a smile. "Not kind. Not surprised. I think you already know." Sam leaned forward. "Why do you all pretend it doesn't exist?" Eastman set down his mug. "Because it has to be forgotten. That's how we survive. We forget. We move on. But it's not letting us." Eastman nodded slowly. "I know." He stood and crossed the room, opened a drawer, and took out a yellowing file. Thin. Unlabeled. He placed it gently in front of Sam. "Go ahead," he said. "Read it." Sam opened the file. Inside were 4 pages. The first, a photograph, dated March 1974. The Sea Hall hallway. Flooded. Mud everywhere. 2 lockers torn open, warped like melted plastic. A custodian standing beside a student, both looking down into a hole in the floor. The student's face had been blacked out with ink. But scrawled beneath the photo, in pencil, was a name, Thomas Halderman. The second page, a psychological profile. Thomas Halderman. Age 16. Straight A student. No disciplinary record. Reported hearing whispers beneath the school. Insisted something was riding through him. Expelled for vandalism after painting the phrase, "Remember US," in black tar across the cafeteria ceiling. Later institutionalized. Status, deceased. Body never recovered. The third page, an internal memo. To Principal Whitmore. Read, Containment Protocols. Following the second incident, Locker 119 will be sealed permanently. Access to the sub-basement has been restricted. All yearbooks from 1974 must be destroyed. Any faculty who speak of Halderman will be dismissed for breach of contract. We must maintain normalcy. Even if we are the only ones who remember what it costs. Signed. E. Eastman. Assistant Principal, 1975. Sam looked up. You knew him. Mr. Eastman nodded. He was my friend. Sam's hands trembled. He's still here. In the locker. In the walls. Eastman's voice dropped. That's not Thomas anymore. The fourth page was blank. Except for a single sentence. When the name returns, so does the mouth. Why now? Sam whispered. Mr. Eastman sighed. Because memory has weight. We buried too many things in the name of keeping things clean. But things don't stay buried here. They grow. Then why not warn people? Because it listens. The more you talk about it, the more real it becomes. Sam stood. What if I don't want to forget? The principal smiled sadly. Then you'll be the next file in the drawer. That night, Sam went home and opened the photo again. Still just him. But this time, the background had changed. Behind the empty spot where Maya had been, a locker. Not his. Not any he recognized. Just one. Open. And full of hair. Sam stopped dreaming. Not because the dreams ended. Because he stopped waking up. Each morning bled into the next without beginning or end. Days slipped sideways. Faces blurred. Time melted into something soft and sticky, like chewed gum stretched across a yearbook page. Even his parents had begun calling him by the wrong name. Thomas. He tried to ask them why. Thomas, honey, you're not making any sense, his mother said, setting down a dinner plate she didn't remember cooking. His father nodded slowly, sipping cold coffee he didn't remember pouring. The house no longer smelled like home. It smelled like formaldehyde and old paper. Like a school that had been torn down, rebuilt, and cursed by the very bricks that held it up. Sam excused himself, went to his room, and locked the door. When he turned on the light, his walls were covered in essays. Hundreds of them. Typed. All with the same title. What I Remember. None had his name at the top. But all of them had been graded A+. In red ink. At school, Miss Kepler was gone. The library was chained shut. A note taped to the door. Undergoing inventory adjustment. Faculty not found. Please check back after recalibration. Sam read it 3 times. The words rearranged themselves each time. He walked through C Hall slowly. All the lockers had changed. No numbers. Just names. Some he recognized, students who hadn't been to school for weeks. Others, he didn't know. Some were in languages he didn't speak. Some were in handwriting that looked carved rather than written. His locker, 119, remained in the center. Silent. Waiting. Someone had taped a sheet of paper to it. Makeup assignment. Submit a memory that no longer belongs to you. He turned the paper over. On the back, a question was written in pale pencil. If your past was erased, would you still be guilty? That night, he returned to the tunnel. Alone. It was wider now. Or maybe he was smaller. The crawl space breathed around him, warm and sour like old lungs exhaling decades of secrets. He reached the locker below again. Its door was open this time. Inside, a desk lamp. A stack of paper. A red pen. And a chair. With someone sitting in it. Maya. But, not Maya. Her skin was cracked like old paint. Her eyes were too dark, like holes punched in paper. She smiled without teeth. "You're late," she said, voice hollow. "They've already started grading." Sam stepped back. "What are you?" She reached into her mouth and pulled out a yellow folder. Handed it to him gently. Inside, one essay. Typed. Titled, "The Memory of a Life That Wasn't Mine." Author, Sam Halderman. Grade, incomplete. Maya leaned forward. Her mouth didn't move, but her voice grew louder. "They need closure, Sam. You opened the locker. That makes you responsible." "For what?" "For remembering." Suddenly, he was sitting in the chair, the paper in front of him, the pen in his hand. The lamp flicked on. It was time to write. He tried to resist, tried to move, but his hands worked without permission, and the words spilled from his fingers like blood from a reopened wound. "My name is Thomas Halderman. I was born in 1957. I was buried under the school in 1974. They took my locker. They took my name. They left me here. But you found me. So now you get to stay." When Sam looked up, the tunnel had disappeared. The room was smaller. Smaller still. Now just a locker. And he was inside. At Mason Ridge, no one spoke of Sam Halderman anymore. His locker was empty. His name removed from attendance. His photograph gone from yearbooks. But every now and then, students would report hearing typing late at night. From a locker that didn't exist. And sometimes, just before a school break, a new essay would appear on a teacher's desk. What I remember. Always typed. Always graded. Always signed. Extra credit. It began with the PA system. That gray box in every classroom. That invisible voice that told students when to stand, when to sit, when to pretend the world made sense. One morning, it cracked. Just slightly. A whisper between static. Mr. Keene was taking attendance when it happened. "Good morning, students," the voice rasped. "Today is correction. Date not found. Temperature irrelevant. Memory index unstable." The class froze. Sam, if that was still his name, felt his heart stop. Because no one else looked confused. No one else had heard it. Only him. And 2 desks over. Jordan Harper. Jordan turned, his eyes wide and wet. He mouthed, "Did you hear that?" Sam nodded once. That afternoon, Jordan pulled him aside near the vending machines. He looked pale, twitchy. "They said my name on the announcements yesterday." Sam frowned. "That's normal, right?" Jordan shook his head. "I wasn't in school yesterday. They agreed to meet in the library, after dark. Except the library wasn't there anymore. Just an empty room filled with desks. No shelves. No windows. No dust. Just a podium with a microphone. And a laminated card taped to it. Announcements must be spoken daily. Do not deviate. Do not repeat. Do not remember. Jordan touched the mic. The lights went out. For a moment, the room wasn't a room at all. It was a hallway. Long. Gray. With lockers on both sides. Each one humming softly. Like heartbeats in tin cans. Then the mic came alive. And the voice returned. Good evening, faculty. This is your memory test. Jordan Harper is now considered archived. Please adjust your rosters accordingly. Thank you for your silence. The next day, Jordan was gone. No one remembered him. Not teachers. Not students. Not even the yearbook committee. His locker was still there, open, humming, full of fog. Sam reached in. Pulled out a photo. It was his entire homeroom class. All smiling. Except for the center. Where Jordan had been. A jagged, torn hole. That night, Sam heard the announcements in his sleep. Over and over. Different names. Different instructions. Emily Chen, memory disqualified. Room 204, recalibrate seating chart. Maya Edison, echo reinstated. Observation required. Sam Holderman, pending replacement. He woke up screaming. Not because of what he heard, but because someone had pinned a hall pass to his pillow. Time stamped, 6 hours 66 minutes a.m. Destination, Office of Forgotten Enrollment. At school, no one would meet his eyes. Posters had begun appearing overnight. Need extra credit? Volunteer for announcements. Memory is a privilege. Report yours daily. He found Maya's name written in chalk on the bathroom wall. Below it, in smaller handwriting. I still remember you. That's the problem. M. During lunch, the speakers sparked again. Attention students. This is your final reminder. Locker 119 must remain closed. If you hear knocking, it's already too late. If you see yourself walking away, do not follow. Memory is not symmetrical. That is all. Everyone continued eating. No one flinched. Except Sam. Because on the far side of the cafeteria, he saw himself. Same jacket. Same shoes. Same half-burned student ID. Walking calmly toward the gymnasium doors. Sam stood. He followed. The hallway stretched longer than it should have. And colder. The air reeked of dust and chalk and soil. When he reached the gym, the lights were off. Except for the scoreboard. It flickered numbers that didn't exist. Period, infinity. Home, 0. Guest, -1. In the middle of the court, a single chair. Empty. Except for the intercom receiver, resting on the seat. Buzzing softly. Waiting. Sam picked it up. Held it to his ear. No voice. Just breathing. Heavy. Rhythmic. Familiar. Then, a whisper. Say it back. What? He whispered. Say the announcements. You know them now. Sam shut his eyes. And recited, without thinking. Good morning, Mason Ridge. Today is a day like all days. Yesterday has been removed. Tomorrow is conditional. If your name is not spoken, you do not belong. If your locker is open, you have been chosen. Forget gently. Forget completely. And remember, there is no such thing as detention. When he opened his eyes, the gym was gone. He stood in a hallway again. Locker 119 behind him. Open. And inside, a microphone. Attached to a desk. With his nameplate beside it. Samuel Holderman. Announcements in turn. Sam walked home, but nothing looked familiar. The street signs were blank. The sky had no stars. Even the houses leaned wrong, too close together, too narrow, like they were listening. His house still stood where he left it. But the door was slightly open. And someone was humming inside. He stepped in. Mom. No answer. The kitchen smelled like bleach and rain. The fridge was humming, same as the lockers. On the fridge door, a photo. A family of 3. 2 adults. 1 teenager. But the teen's face was missing. Just a white blur where his features should be. Below it, written in looping marker. Homecoming week, spirit never dies. Upstairs, his bedroom light was on. He opened the door slowly. The walls were no longer covered in essays. Now, they were covered in maps. Of the school. Of the tunnels beneath it. Of every locker ever assigned. Each locker was labeled, used, archived, echoed, claimed. His name appeared 3 times. Once under echo. Once under pending. And once under a section marked. Spare shells, grade adjusted. He turned to the mirror. For a long time, he didn't move. Because the reflection wasn't right. His face looked like a photo that had been photocopied too many times. Lines off-center. Eyes too far apart. Skin, static. Then the reflection blinked, without him. And whispered. They let you come home because it's almost time. That night, he dreamt of homecoming. The gym decked out in black and silver streamers. No music. No people. Just rows of chairs. All facing the stage. On the stage. The whisper locker. Its door wide open. And from it, students emerged. one by one, each holding a piece of paper, each with their name crossed out in red ink. They sat down in silence, waiting. Sam woke up with streamers in his hand and glitter in his hair. The next day, the school was decorated. Banners hung crookedly in the halls. Homecoming, remember who you were. Lockers will be inspected for contraband memories. Spirit Week, Monday, body double day. Sam passed a group of students all dressed like him. Same jeans. Same shoes. Same old varsity hoodie he never remembered owning. They stared at him. He stared back. Only one of them blinked. And that one said, "You're late." The parade already started. At lunch, the intercom boomed again. This time, the voice was his own. "Welcome back, Mason Ridge. Congratulations to all Spirit Week participants. Locker checks will begin after 5th period. If you find any unclaimed memories, please return them to the main office. Our homecoming court has been selected. May they walk proudly into the echo." The cafeteria cheered. Sam sat in silence. His tray was full of ash. After school, he followed the crowd. They were marching toward the football field. The bleachers were filled with duplicates, students who looked the same from far away, but all slightly wrong up close. Their faces flickered. Their jerseys bled backwards. Some clapped in slow motion. At the 50-yard line, a throne stood. Silver. Shining. Empty. The announcer's voice returned, echoing from every locker, every hallway, every part of his skull. This year's homecoming king is Samuel Halderman. For his exceptional memory donation. For his selfless submission to the archive. For finally learning his place. They handed him a crown made of locker keys. A sash sewn from paper slips. A microphone. He didn't want to speak. But the words came anyway. Thank you for forgetting me. Thank you for replacing me. I am proud to be what's left. I am proud to announce. He froze. Because in the crowd, he saw his mother. Sitting in the front row. Wearing a faculty badge. Smiling. But she mouthed a name that wasn't his. Thomas. The scoreboard changed again. Home, echo. Guest, real. Final, empty set. A single tone played. High. Metallic. Like a bell made from teeth. And all the lights went out. When Sam woke up, he was back in the hallway. Locker 119 was closed. No one was around. But a new flyer had been taped to the wall. Thank you for another successful homecoming. Next week, yearbook photos. Remember to bring a face you plan to keep. The announcement came before first period. Today is yearbook retake day. If your original photo was corrupted, please report to the north stairwell. If you have no memory of taking a photo, this is expected. If you have multiple faces to choose from, consult your counselor. Make sure your reflection agrees. Sam stared at the memo printed on locker paper. It was slightly damp. Smelled like developing fluid and chalk. He checked his yearbook photo online. It had been replaced with a silhouette. No name. Just a blinking icon labeled Error, Candid Unavailable. He went to the north stairwell. There was no camera. Just a folding chair. And a woman in a red cardigan holding an old Polaroid. Her smile didn't quite match her eyes. Name? She asked. He hesitated. Sam Halderman. She flipped through a clipboard. Paused. Current face. What? She pointed behind him. A cracked mirror leaned against the stairwell wall. In it, Sam saw 3 reflections. All slightly different. One with short hair. One with bandages. One with no mouth. The woman smiled again. Choose quickly. The camera doesn't wait. He sat in the chair. The Polaroid blinked, like it breathed. CHCHK. The photo ejected. He waited. It developed in seconds. But the image was someone else entirely. A boy with clean shoes. Perfect teeth. A face that looked approved. She handed it to him without comment. This will be your official record going forward, she said. Burn all others. In second period, the teachers handed out memory packets. Each one labeled Biological Identity Survey, Phase 4. Questions included: how long have you been in this grade? Do you remember your first locker combination? Do you still believe in permanent names? Have you noticed echoes in your handwriting? When your reflection changes, do you inform anyone? Sam checked boxes at random. When he got to the bottom, he froze. The final question. Are you proud of who we made you? At lunch, every student carried a manila envelope. Each one wore a sticker on their chest. I chose a face. Sam's envelope was blank inside. Just a single note in red ink. You are not eligible for duplication. Return to locker 119 for reassignment. He went. This time, it was open. Inside, a new jacket. One size too small. With a name tag that read, Tommy. A note was pinned to the sleeve. Retake complete. Faculty sponsor, MH. Graduation status, undefined. Roll, float. Sam wandered the hall. The school felt thinner. Like the paint on the walls was just a layer over something else. The ceiling tiles whispered his name. But not in fear. In recognition. As if he were no longer hiding. As if he had become part of it. During final period, the intercom clicked again. Attention students. A reminder that all former photos must be shredded. If you find a yearbook page with your old face, do not engage. Do not try to remember. Memory is a closed system. Echoes belong to the archive. Sam snuck into the yearbook room. No one was there. Just hundreds of torn pages, fluttering like feathers. He found the photo index. Flipped through frantically. Then he saw it. Page 42. Homeroom 2B, Halderman, S. A photo of him. Not polished. Not posed. A hallway shot, blurry, raw, real. And someone had scratched across it. Too true. He tore the page out. Held it close to his chest. Suddenly, the lights flickered. The lockers began to hum. From behind him, a voice whispered, "That one isn't yours anymore." He turned. A dozen students stood in the doorway. All with his face. Each slightly off. Each holding a different version of the same photo. Each repeating, "Smile. It's retake day." He ran. But the halls shifted. Each corner leading back to the photo room. Like the building wanted him contained. Trapped in the memory of himself. He dropped the photo. It burned the floor as it fell. When the bell rang, no one moved. All students stood, in unison, and recited, "We are our best selves today. We are the faces chosen. We are the smiles corrected. We are the year they'll never forget. We are the year that never happened." Sam woke up on the gym floor. A crown of negatives on his head. A sash made of Polaroids. The crowd clapped in silence. The announcer's voice returned. "Congratulations, Tommy. You have been retaken." It started with an alarm. Not a fire drill. Not a lockdown. Something lower. Deeper. A tone that seemed to come from under the school. Students stopped mid-step. Some dropped their backpacks. Others began humming the school anthem, slowly, in reverse. Sam stood in the hallway, clutching his replacement photo. It was warm now. Pulsing slightly. The intercom crackled. "All floaters, please report to the auditorium. It is time for your ceremony. Bring nothing but your final face." The auditorium was full. But no one was in the chairs. They were all on stage. Rows and rows of students, standing still. Wearing masks. Holding slips of paper. Sam recognized them. They were all the ones who vanished. Kids who'd been expelled, transferred, forgotten. Now returned. But not quite right. Their masks were smooth, featureless. Only the name tags gave them shape. I am remembered. I am standardized. I am approved. A woman in a principal's robe stepped forward. But it wasn't the principal. It was his mother. Or something wearing her memory. She raised a clipboard and spoke in a voice like the beginning of a test. Welcome to the real ceremony. Today, you graduate from variance. Today, you abandon the unrevised. Today, you become acceptable. She turned to the audience, though there was none. Then back to the stage. When I call your name, step forward and discard your echoes. Names were read. Each one followed by a student stepping up, tearing a page from a yearbook, and feeding it into a black box labeled Permanent Delete. When she called Tommy, Sam stepped forward. His hands were shaking. He held his photo. He held his name. He held the last scrap of something that might have been real. Then, he dropped it. But not in the box. He let it fall to the stage. And it didn't disappear. It began to duplicate. Like paper breeding paper. Dozens of versions, spreading across the floor. Some showing his face. Some showing strangers. Some, blank. The stage lights flickered. The hum returned. And the students in masks began to twitch. Error detected, someone said. Memory breach, another echoed. The lights turned red. The lockers began to open on their own. And from each one, a whisper emerged. Thousands of voices, all saying the same thing. We remember you. We remember you. We remember you. The woman, his not mother, shouted over the noise. Stop him. He's trying to undo standardization. He wants to go back. But Sam didn't run. He stood at the center of the stage. As the whisper surrounded him. As the paper photos swirled around his feet like snow. And he said, I don't want to go back. I just want to be one thing, even if it's broken. Then the walls of the auditorium peeled away, revealing lockers as far as the eye could see. No horizon. No sky. Just infinite rows. Each locker had a name. Each name scratched out. Each one faintly humming. Sam stepped down from the stage. The whisper followed. And he found one locker still shut tight. Locker 0. No combination. No vent. Just a plaque. Original incident, contained. He reached for it. His hand trembled. Not from fear, but from recognition. When he opened it, there was no echo. Just a mirror. And in it, a boy. Not Sam. Not Tommy. Just a boy. Unclaimed. Unregistered. Free. The boy in the mirror smiled. And for once, the reflection smiled with him. Behind him, the school began to dissolve. The students' masks fell off, revealing no faces underneath. The black box of deletion cracked and spilled ash. The intercom sputtered one last time. This concludes the academic year. All floaters have been processed. Thank you for your compliance. Thank you for your erasure. Thank you for being forgettable. Sam turned away from the locker. The whisper followed him, but it no longer frightened him. It was no longer hungry. It was his now. Not an echo, but a voice. The school faded behind him. Nothing but a hallway of fog, and the faint sound of paper turning itself. Page after page, chapter after chapter, ending with, "You were never lost. You were just waiting for your final version." There was no sound when Sam opened his eyes. Not silence, just the absence of anything that should have been there. No classroom chatter. No distant bells. No fluorescent hum. Only the soft hiss of air that might not have belonged to any school at all. He was lying on linoleum. Beneath him, the tiles stretched on in a straight, sterile pattern. White. Gray. White. Gray. Forever. The hallway had no doors. No windows. Just lockers. Hundreds of them. Each one slightly ajar. Each one humming, as if breathing through cracked lungs. Sam sat up slowly. The compass in his pocket was spinning wildly. The needle had no direction, just movement. He stood and walked. 1 step. 2. His footsteps were dampened, as if the air was padded. No matter how far he walked, the lockers never changed. Each had a nameplate. But not with names. With feelings. Disappointment. Regret. I should have spoken up. Almost told the truth. Forgotten in gym class. He paused at one labeled. Still pretending to be fine. It creaked open by itself. Inside, a Polaroid photo. Of him. But not as himself. As someone trying to be him. He shut it. Around the 5th hour, or the 5th repeat of the same light fixture overhead, he saw a figure. A girl. Sitting on the floor. Back against a locker labeled, misplaced memory number 73. She was eating from a brown paper lunch bag. Biting into a sandwich that didn't exist. Her hands moved through the motions of chewing, but there was no food. Just pattern. Just routine. "Hello?" Sam asked. She didn't answer. He stepped closer. "Do you know where this goes?" "Nothing." Then. A sound. Ding. A school bell. But reversed. Played backward, like tape rewound too fast. Her head snapped toward him. Eyes wide. Mouth still chewing invisible bread. "You're not assigned to this corridor," she said. "You're not drifting right." "What?" "Shoo. They'll hear you." The floor. It listens. He crouched next to her. "Where is this?" "Drift Hall." For the unprocessed. We stay here until our echo stabilizes. What does that mean? You're still too new. Still sticky with memory. They can smell that. Who's they? She opened her palm. Inside it, a small sticker that read, "This student is not real." "Keep walking," she said. "Only the hallway decides if you get out." Sam stood. Walked again. But now, the lockers began to shift. The hallway, subtle at first, curved. Bent. The tiles changed colors underfoot. Gray. White. Red. White. Red. 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 Bloodless, but suggestive. He passed a locker labeled, "Day I didn't cry, but should have." It opened. Inside, a math test. Every answer circled. Not with a pen. With teeth marks. He didn't stop. Hours passed. Or maybe loops. Time began to fold in on itself. He saw himself. Walking ahead of him. Just briefly. Then gone. He turned a corner, and the girl was there again. Same spot. Same sandwich. Same locker. "You looped," she said, without looking. He panicked. "Why?" "I walked in a straight line." "No such thing here. Straight lines are for remembered people. We bend." He dropped to the floor. Hands in his hair. The hallway buzzed, softly, then louder. The lockers began to open. Slowly. One by one. Clack. 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 Inside each, a mirror. Each mirror, his face. But different. Older. Younger. Sadder. Smiling. All versions he could have been. Some crying. Some whispering. One mouthed the words. This isn't the first time. He ran. Not to escape. To forget. And slowly, it worked. Names slipped. Dates dissolved. The girl's voice followed him in echoes. Let go of who you are. That's the only way forward. He didn't know his last name anymore. Or his favorite class. Or why he had entered this hallway at all. Just that he needed a door. Any door. Then he saw it. Locker 0. The only one fully closed. No nameplate. Just a keyhole shaped like a question mark. His compass needle stopped spinning. It pointed straight at it. He pressed his hand against the metal. It was warm. Alive. A speaker crackled overhead. Subject Echo 119, drift complete. Identity degradation level acceptable. Proceed to counselor's office for reclassification. The locker clicked. And opened. Inside, Stairs. Descending. He stepped in. And the hallway, behind him, vanished. As if it had never existed. As if he had never existed. The stairwell was too quiet. Every step Sam took downward echoed, not like sound, but like memory. As if each footfall peeled away part of who he was. He tried to remember his mother's face. Blank. His favorite color. Nothing. Even his voice felt borrowed. He spoke out loud, just to hear himself. Hello. A whisper came back, not a reply. A perfect imitation. Hello. 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 3 times. Each with less emotion. Each one slightly off. At the bottom of the stairwell, a door waited. Black, padded, with a tiny brass plate. Counseling, Echo Division. The knob was worn. He pushed it open. Inside, a room that looked like every counselor's office he had ever seen, and none of them. Posters lined the walls. But the slogans were wrong. Feeling disconnected? That's good. Your confusion is part of the process. Let the school think for you. A desk sat in the middle. But no one behind it. Just a reel-to-reel tape machine. Turning. It clicked. Then began to play. A voice emerged. Made of many voices. Layered, like a choir in a well. Male. Female. Young. Old. All speaking in unison. Hello, Sam. Or, the echo formerly known as Sam. We're glad you've made it this far. He didn't respond. By now, you've noticed your sense of self has softened. That's perfectly normal. Necessary, even. The reel hissed softly between words. You are currently in Identity Degradation Phase 3. Soon, you will qualify for reclassification. Sam stepped forward. Who are you? He asked. The reel didn't stop. We are the counselor. Not a person. A function. Formed from the voices of those who've given up control. We remember so you don't have to. The lights flickered. Briefly, shadows on the walls resembled students. Slouched. Mouthing things. He looked to the desk. There was a file folder there. Labeled, Remains of Sam T. The last letter blurred. He opened it. Inside, pages of scribbles. Notes written in his own handwriting. Except they weren't his thoughts. We must assess your echo stability, the counselor continued. Answer truthfully. Or as close to it as you can still get. A pause. What is your greatest academic achievement? He searched. Searched. But nothing surfaced. I think I once wrote a poem. Unstable. Error margin, 38%. A chime rang. A second question. Who was your closest friend in school? He hesitated. A name tried to form. But all he could hear was a locker door slamming. I can't remember. Acceptable. Echo integrity dropping. Another pause. Would you prefer to be remembered inaccurately, or not at all? He stepped back. What kind of question is that? The real slowed. Whine. One all students face eventually. Your record is almost full. You may choose a new classification. A small printer on the desk chirped. Spat out 3 cards. Each one bore a title. Hall monitor. Substitute student. Permanent background character. He picked up the last one. It felt heavy. On the back, it read, "You will never be asked to speak. You will always be there. But no one will ever know your name." He dropped it. I don't want any of these. The reel spun faster. Desire is the last illusion. You're lucky to lose it. Suddenly, a 4th card slid out. Crimson. No text. Just a small symbol, a whisper mark, spiraling inward. He picked it up. The room changed. The posters peeled. The desk splintered. Behind the far wall, something groaned, deep, ancient. Then a panel opened. Inside, a small door. No handle. It simply opened. Congratulations, the counselor said. You've been selected for special processing. What does that mean? It means you're finally ready to meet someone who remembers what the school really is. Sam stared into the black doorway. No stairs. No floor. Just falling. He stepped through. The real scream. Not in sound, but in memory. Suddenly, he remembered his 3rd grade classroom. The smell of wet paper. The sound of scissors on glue-stiff pages. And one girl who never spoke. Until now. Her voice, faint and terrified. Sam, they're using us to build something. Every whisper is mortar. Then silence. And falling. When Sam opened his eyes, he was on a school bus. Old. Faded. The yellow paint on the windows turned sepia with time. Outside, fog curled like fingers against the glass. A frozen sea of gray. He sat in the 3rd row, window seat. Backpack in his lap. Shoes slightly damp. There were other students. 12. Maybe 13. All facing forward. All unmoving. Like mannequins waiting for permission to exist. He looked to the front. The driver was a tall silhouette. Head tilted at a strange angle, too still. A sign above the windshield read, "Field trip, permission granted to forget." The engine rumbled, softly. The bus didn't move. Sam turned to the girl beside him. Red hoodie. No face. Just static where features should have been. She was holding a crayon drawing. It showed a school. Windows blacked out. A sun with no mouth. He whispered, "Where are we going?" The drawing twitched in her hands, as if it wanted to answer. Suddenly, a chime echoed through the bus. Not a bell. Not quite. A sound like a slow rewind of laughter. Then a speaker crackled above them. "Good morning, students. Today's destination is nowhere in particular. Please remain in your seats. Let the forgetting happen naturally." Sam tried to stand, but his legs were slow, as if the air resisted movement. Outside, the fog grew thicker. Shapes began to form. Playgrounds. Trees. Swing sets frozen in mid-arc. A town. No. A memory of one. He pressed his hand to the window. His reflection blinked, out of sync. Then spoke. "You've been on this bus before." He jolted back. The girl's drawing changed. Now it showed the inside of the bus, with all the students asleep, and one seat empty. His. He stepped into the aisle. The bus groaned. The driver didn't move. Sam passed each row. Each student frozen in a loop. One boy chewed endlessly on an invisible snack. A girl flipped a broken phone screen, over and over. A tall kid in the back whispered, "Are we there yet?" Every 6 seconds. Exactly. He reached the front. The driver still didn't move. Until Sam reached for the door lever. Then, the driver twitched. Not turned. Twitch. Like a glitch in posture. The voice from the speaker changed. "Unauthorized student activity detected. Destination lock will be enforced." Sam yanked the lever. The door creaked. Then slammed shut again, on its own. Lights overhead flickered. One by one. The fog outside turned red. Not blood. Not fire. Just wrong. He turned to the front mirror. But instead of his reflection, he saw a row of buses. All the same. All filled with students. All not moving. And in each one, himself. A different version. One crying. One laughing. One asleep. And one banging on the window, trying to scream. "Wake up." The driver finally moved. Turned its head slowly. Its face was a mirror. And in the glass, a classroom. Empty. But with one desk lit. His. The voice returned. "You are not permitted to complete this trip. Please return to your assigned memory." But Sam refused. "I'm done sitting still." He stepped forward. and the floor gave way. Not a fall. A fold. The bus inverted. Now he stood, in the ceiling. And all the students stared upward. Mouths opening. In unison, they whispered. Permission slip denied. Then darkness. Then motion. A sudden jolt. He was outside the bus. Fog clearing slightly. He stood in an empty parking lot. 12 buses. All identical. All idling. No driver. No student. Except for one. Where he saw himself still sitting. Alone. Staring out. Waiting to forget. Sam walked away. Each step hurt. But not in the body. In the memory. Something was being torn behind him. Like ripping Velcro from the back of the mind. As he reached the edge of the lot, a sign emerged from the mist. Old. Rusted. It read, Welcome to Nowhere Unified School District. You were never enrolled here. But you'll never graduate. Sam was back in a classroom. Not his. Not anyone's. Rows of mismatched desks stretched into the dark. Some were made of metal. Some of bone. One was just a chair with no seat. The chalkboard read, Subject, forgetfulness. Instructor. No windows. No clock. Only a large mirror on the back wall, cracked in the center, webbing like a spider's eye. He sat in the second row. Alone. Until she entered. The substitute. She didn't walk. She arrived. Like an idea entering the room. Tall. Draped in black linen. No visible face. Just an absence where it should be, blurring softly, like heat. She carried no attendance sheet. But when she turned toward him, he felt her mouth move beneath the blur. Name. He hesitated. Sam. Last name. Silence. A buzzing in his ears. The mirror behind him flickered. Your record is incomplete. She walked, no footsteps. Closer. Her fingers were long. Each one tipped with a dull pencil. She pressed one to his forehead. It didn't hurt. But something inside his head crinkled. You are being reassigned. Original subject, memory. New subject, subordination. She handed him a worksheet. Blank. Then spoke again. Today's lesson is simple. Do not be noticed. He stared. No instructions. No questions. Just rows of empty lines. Around him, the desks began to fill. Students emerged from the shadows. Each one writing. Furiously. Breathing heavily. Like it hurt. One boy scribbled until his pencil bled. Another chewed her eraser down to the metal, without blinking. Sam tried to write. His hand wouldn't move. Instead, the pencil turned in his grip, until it faced him. Like a warning, the substitute passed each desk. She never looked down, only into the students. Every time she paused, a student would vanish. Their desk remained, still warm, still vibrating. When she passed Sam, she stopped, tilted her head. The voice returned. "You're trying to remember something." "Yes." "That's dangerous." She placed a small mirror on his desk. Oval. Handheld. Fogged at the center. "Look." He did. At first, just his own face. Then it shifted. Eyes, not his. Mouth, stitched. Across his forehead, written in chalk. Incomplete. He dropped the mirror. It didn't fall. It floated. Turned. Reflected her. And her face was him. Staring back. Smiling. A bell rang. Low. Slow. Too long. "Class is dismissed," she said. But no one moved. Not even her. Because class was never dismissed. The lights began to dim. Each desk flickered out. One by one. Until only his remained. And her. She leaned close. Her voice was not a whisper. It was a command that wore the skin of a whisper. "Tomorrow, you will forget what it means to disobey. Tomorrow, you will forget there ever was a teacher before me. Tomorrow, you will raise your hand, and I will take it." She placed a pencil in his hand. Not wood. Bone. He blinked. And found himself outside the classroom, holding the pencil. The door behind him was gone. Only a smear remained. On the wall, faint writing. His name. But letters missing. S underscore 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 T underscore 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 underscore. He tried to speak it. But the substitute was already inside his mouth. The hallway was quiet. Too quiet. Sam walked with soft steps, the kind you use in dreams when you're not sure if you're being followed, or led. The lockers were all slightly open. Each one humming. Like they were breathing. He passed classroom doors. They had no handles. No numbers. Just blank wood and something wet underneath. Then he saw it. A table. Placed neatly at the end of the corridor. On it, a single book. Thick. Bound in cracked leather. Etched on the front. Class of Never Was. He opened it. The pages smelled like old ink and burnt leaves. The first page. Welcome to the yearbook of the forgotten. Only those who've been almost erased can be remembered here. Sam flipped through. Each spread held dozens of faces. Black and white. smiling. But the smiles were wrong. Too wide. Too sharp. Some blurred at the edges like they were dissolving mid-laugh. Names were printed below. But many had been scribbled out. Others replaced with things like no longer valid. Retaken by the halls. Property of the locker. Then, he saw himself. Page 44. Second row. His school photo. Grainy. Eyes confused. Mouth unsure. Underneath, Samuel T _____. No last name. Next to it, a handwritten note. Pending final erasure. Smile rating, insufficient. He turned the page. Now it showed a group photo. A class. His class. But everyone's face had been replaced with lockers. Each locker door open, just enough to reveal shadows within. One was labeled Sam's seat, vacant since bell 2. The air grew colder. Pages flipped themselves. Faster. Harder. As if the book were impatient. Then stopped. A new page. Blank. Except for a mirror tucked into the corner. A sticker above it read, "Insert yourself." Sam looked into the mirror. His face faded. The more he stared, the more it dissolved into white static. And something wrote itself below the glass. "Congratulations. You are now ready for archival." He slammed the book shut. It throbbed in his hands. Like a heart that didn't belong to him. From down the hallway, footsteps. Rhythmic. Slow. Measured. Someone was coming. He turned, book still in hand, and ran. The hallway bent. Twisted. He wasn't running in a straight line anymore. He was running backward. Posters on the walls shifted. From prom ads to missing student notices. To blank sheets. To nothing. When he reached the end, he found himself in a new corridor. Lined with mirrors. Each one held a still image. A school photo. Students trapped mid-pose. Blinking once every 10 seconds. He passed a mirror, his reflection stayed behind. Smiling. Without him. He dropped the book. It opened one last time. A final message. The yearbook doesn't remember you. It keeps you. So you don't notice when the world stops calling your name. Sam turned. The hallway behind him was gone. Only mirrors. Only faces. And in one of them, the substitute was watching. Still. Smiling. Holding a pencil dipped in ink made of silence. Sam stood in front of locker 237. Again. The hallway was empty, yet alive. The light buzzed not above him, but inside his ears. And the locker. It wasn't just a locker anymore. Its surface was no longer metal. It pulsed, softly. Like skin remembering how to breathe. And there, on its face, something new. A keyhole. But no lock. Just the absence of something that used to keep it shut. He didn't have a key. He didn't need one. As his fingers brushed the surface, the door unlatched itself. A hiss escaped. Not air. Not gas. It was language. Words too soft to hear, too sharp to forget. He leaned closer. And the whisper came again. This time, a question. Do you want to know who put you in me? Sam froze. What are you? I am where the secrets are folded. I am the mouth that eats memories, but never digests them. I am you, before you were seen. Inside, the locker was not shallow. It went back, deep. Infinitely. Lined with old photos, paper scraps, chewed pencils, and something moving. Not crawling. Not slithering. Just rearranging itself. Sam reached in. Fingers brushed something cold. He pulled it out. A photo. Old. Curled. Black and white. A classroom. But the desks were empty. Except for one. His. And in it sat someone else. Wearing his face. But older. Wrong. The voice came again. From the locker. You've been here before. Many, many bells ago. The photo shimmered. Morphed. Now the classroom was full. Students sat with heads bowed. But each one had his face. Over and over. Dozens of Sams. One crying. One laughing. One scratching his eyes out. One turning to look directly at him through the photo. We are all the echoes, said the locker. And you are the one who asked to come back. Sam dropped the photo. It didn't fall. It melted. Right into the hallway floor, absorbed like water into skin. He reached into the locker again. And pulled out a tape recorder. Rusty. Heavy. Marked. Property of Room 333. Play only when you forget why you're here. He pressed play. A voice crackled. His own. This is Sam. If you're hearing this, then the locker has started talking back. That means it's almost over. You need to find the basement. Not the real one, the true one. The one that bleeds when it rains. Inside, you'll find the bell tower. It doesn't ring to mark time. It rings to erase it. The moment you hear the bell twice, that's when you were born. And that's when you disappear. Good luck, me. Click. Silence. The locker closed by itself. This time, it locked. No keyhole. No whisper. Just a small phrase now etched across the front. Not yet. Not you. Not all of you. Behind him, footsteps. Slow. Wet. Measured. The hallway shifted color, tiles bleeding pink. Sam turned, and every locker was now open. Each one whispering. Each one speaking in his voice. Come in. Stay a while. Bring your name. You won't need it after. Every map of the school said the same thing. No third floor. No room 333. And yet, Sam found the stairs. They weren't where they should have been. They were where he didn't look. Behind a bookshelf in the library. A shelf that only tilted when you thought about going home. The staircase was narrow. Spiral. Wet. Lit by exit signs that pointed in both directions. Up and down. At the top. A door. Plain. Unmarked. Except for a faint thumbprint on the knob. Sam pressed it. It was warm. Like someone had just been here. Inside. A classroom. Sort of. Desks melted into the floor. Chairs faced the wrong way. The blackboard was a mirror. It didn't reflect the room. It reflected somewhere else. Another version of the class. Empty. And then, full. Then, burning. On the teacher's desk, a reel-to-reel recorder. Already playing. A voice, crackly, slow. Female. Tired. But firm. Welcome to Remedial Identity. This is room 333. Lesson 1. Forget what you looked like yesterday. Sam stood still. The voice continued. Lesson 2. Your memories are not yours. They are rented. From the dark. The reel slowed. Then reversed. Playing the same voice, backward. And yet, he understood it better that way. The lights flickered. Not off. Just away. Like the light had decided to go somewhere else. And in the dark, something moved behind the mirror board. A shadow. It looked like him. But with the wrong number of limbs. The recorder clicked. New voice. His. Note to self, if I make it this far, remember, room 333 is not the final room. It's the one that asks the questions. But it never gives answers. That's what the bell tower is for. A pause. If you hear the bell again, that's your last chance to forget on purpose. Sam turned to leave. But the door was gone. In its place, another mirror. This one showed a classroom filled with students. All wearing masks. Each mask had his face. Identical. Expressionless. Sitting. Waiting. One stood. Pointed. And mouthed the word, Imposter. Sam backed away. The room rippled. Desks floated for a moment, then rearranged. Now facing him. Now expecting him. The blackboard flickered to a new message. Sit. You're late. He sat. Had to. The chair gripped him. The reel clicked again. Final message. This class doesn't end until you forget what you were trying to remember. The bell rang. Once. Then silence. Then. Twice. Everything inside room 333 went still. Even the shadows. Even the whisper inside his head. For the first time in forever, silence. Which meant, it has begun. Sam stood on the roof of the school. Or, what he thought was the roof. The sky above wasn't sky anymore. It was paper. Wrinkled. Torn at the corners. Words barely visible, like someone had tried to erase the heavens. And in the center, a shape. High. Crooked. Rising out of nothing. A bell tower. No door. No ladder. Just there. Floating. Breathing. As if stitched onto the sky with someone's old nerves. He remembered the tape. The bell doesn't ring to mark time. It rings to erase it. Sam stepped forward. And the roof stretched beneath him like rubber. Gravity bent. Space folded. And with one blink, he was inside. The tower smelled of chalk and blood. Not fresh. Old. Like memory left out in the rain. The walls were made of lockers. Stacked on all sides. Like vertebrae. And at the very top, a bell. Not gold. Not metal. It looked grown, not forged. Twisted bone and ink veins. Hollow. Waiting. Something whispered from below. It wasn't the locker this time. It was the bell. And it said, "You rang me first. Now I finish the echo." Sam climbed. With each step, the tower remembered something. A hallway flickered into view beside him, then vanished. A desk he once sat in, half-burned, hovered for a moment. Old quiz papers fluttered like moths. And then he saw it. A door. Midair. Floating beside the bell. On it. Faculty only. Erased staff may not enter. He opened it anyway. Inside. A classroom. But unlike any he'd seen before. There were no students. Only teachers. Each one blindfolded. Mouthless. Tied to desks with ropes made of school lanyards. And behind the chalkboard, a giant clock. Its hands moved backward. Then stopped. And reversed again. He stepped forward. The floor beneath him crunched. Yearbook pages. All with his name. All crossed out. Over and over. And above the blackboard. The final period has already begun. Then. The bell tolled. Once. The teachers convulsed. A second time. The tower groaned. A third. The paper sky above tore open. And light spilled in. But it wasn't sunlight. It was white noise. A pure, buzzing oblivion. From within it, a figure stepped forward. Not the substitute. Not himself. Something worse. A perfect replica. Smiling. Alive. Holding his backpack. Inside it. All the things he lost. Notebooks. Schedules. Memories he hadn't lived yet. The replica spoke. Thanks for warming up my life. You're dismissed. Sam screamed. But no sound came. The bell rang one last time. And the locker inside his chest snapped open. Sam woke up in a classroom. The bell had stopped ringing. But it was still echoing. Not in the air. In his thoughts. Like it had changed the shape of his memories. He looked down. His hands weren't his. Smaller. Cleaner. Newer. His name tag read. Samuel, iteration 4.3. Next to him sat 3 other students. All with his face. All silent. All staring at the front of the room. Where the teacher stood. A woman with no eyes. Only red, ink-drawn spirals. Her voice was static with a smile. Welcome, replacements. This semester, we'll focus on emotional consistency and cognitive containment. Please refrain from remembering what you used to be. Sam tried to speak. His voice cracked. But it wasn't pain. It was lag. As if his words had to pass through a filter before leaving his mouth. He raised his hand. It moved 2 seconds after he thought it should. Excuse me, he said. I don't belong here. The teacher turned. That's exactly why you were selected. She gestured to the board. It flickered between images. His childhood bedroom. A locker inside out. A bell split in half. A hallway collapsing into ink. Then the screen showed a phrase. Replacement protocol, when the host stutters, install the mirror. The student next to him stood. Sam too. Identical, but with no shadow. He reached into his backpack and pulled out a small device. It looked like a compass. But the needle pointed inward. He walked toward Sam. Held it to his forehead. It's time, he whispered. You've had your turn. But something inside Sam snapped. Not fear. Memory. A thread yanked loose from the spool. The locker. The tape. The bell tower. The original Sam. He grabbed the compass and crushed it. It bled. Dark blue fluid leaked out, humming. The teacher screamed. But her mouth didn't open. Instead, the windows shattered. And behind them, nothing. Not sky. Not night. Just a void full of desks and name tags. Floating. Waiting. The ceiling cracked. And from above, something dropped down. Another Sam. Torn. Burned. Still smoking. I escaped the boiler room, the new one whispered. They tried to replace me with you. And you with him. And him with us. The students began to shake. One by one, they stood. Each peeling off their face like a sticker. Underneath. Nothing. Just a blank slate with the word pending. The teacher dissolved into static. The classroom folded in on itself. Sam ran. Through the walls. Down the flickering halls. Past classrooms that blinked in and out of existence. And in the center of it all, the original locker. Locker 237. Open. Empty. And whispering. You can still go back. But only one of you gets to leave. He turned. 5 Sams now followed. Each smiling. Each carrying pieces of his life. A diary. A broken bell. His mother's voice. A melted photo. A mirror. Only one would survive. And it wouldn't be by luck. Sam stood in the center of the hallway. Or what used to be a hallway. Now, it was a tunnel of locker doors. Each one open. Each one whispering. Names. Dates. Cries for help that had already been graded and returned. He wasn't alone. There were 6 of him now. 6 Sams. Each one a little different. One younger. One hollow-eyed. One dripping wet from the boiler room. One stitched together with school IDs. One with no face at all. And one who smiled too easily. And they all wanted to be real. The intercom crackled above. Attention, students, final period has begun. Proceed to the auditorium for sole assignment. Sam didn't move. Neither did the others. Because they knew. Only one could walk out. The rest would become part of the school. Part of its whispers. Part of its rooms that didn't exist until someone believed they did. They walked. Together. Through the main hall, now warped into a cathedral of fluorescent lights and memory fragments. Posters floated like prayers. Photos of students who never aged. And at the center of the auditorium, a stage. A desk. And her. The guidance counselor. But this time, she had a face. His mother's face. Smiling. Empty. holding a clipboard and a small bell. "Welcome back, Sam," she said. "Please stand behind your assigned version." They lined up behind their versions of themselves. The lights above flickered, one by one, until only a spotlight remained. Over the bell, the counselor spoke again. The original Sam tried to resist replacement. He tried to remember. But memory is unstable. We do not archive the past. We overwrite it. She rang the bell. Once. The boiler room Sam collapsed into ash. Twice. The stitched one froze and turned into a yearbook page. 3. The young one laughed, then vanished, mid-breath. 4. The hollow-eyed one screamed silently, then shattered into glass. 5. The smiling Sam stepped forward, grinning wider. "I've earned this," he whispered. But Sam stepped in front of him. The real one. Or, the one who refused to stop being real. "You didn't earn anything," he said. "You just survived in silence." Then he did something no student had ever done. He rang the bell himself. Once. The smiling one convulsed, then melted into ink. And now, only Sam remained. One version, but still full of the others. Full of echoes. The counselor frowned. "You shouldn't have done that." He stared at her. "You're not my counselor." She smiled. "No. I'm the next student." And she stepped forward. As her face peeled away, Sam understood. There would never be one Sam. Not truly. Only versions. Each one fighting for the front seat in a school that never ends. The bell tolled again. Not from above. Not from the tower. But from inside him. And Sam knew. The final bell wasn't the end. It was the roll call. And somewhere, in some other school, another locker had just whispered open. Ready for the next name. The bell had long since rung. The halls should have emptied. But the sound of footsteps, soft, synchronized, almost too regular, still echoed across the tiled floor. Sam wasn't sure how he got here. He remembered a door. A black slip. A voice whispering, "You've been reassigned." Then, this room. Not a detention room. A re-education chamber. It looked like a classroom, but wrong. The clock hands didn't move. The desks were welded to the floor. Fluorescent lights flickered in a pattern that felt intentional. Like Morse code for the nervous system. There were no windows. No exit. Only a red sign above the blackboard. Detention B, adjustment in progress. He wasn't alone. 7 other students sat in perfect silence, backs rigid, eyes straight ahead. Their faces, familiar. No. Too familiar. Versions of kids Sam had passed in the halls. But older. Glitchier. As if they had stayed behind after school one too many times. A speaker crackled overhead. No announcement. Just a looping voice, distant, robotic. Compliance is the beginning of clarity. Clarity is the beginning of silence. Silence is the reward. Sam shifted in his seat. Wrong move. A shriek sliced the air. Not a scream, but the shriek of chalk, dragged violently across the blackboard by invisible hands. The students didn't flinch. Sam tried to speak. Where am I? No one turned. But one girl, sitting in the far left corner, tilted her head slightly. Only slightly. As if hearing his voice triggered something too old to name. Then she whispered. Don't raise your hand. Don't look at the clock. And never, ever stand up when it's not your turn. Her name tag read. Emily S. 7 attempts. 7. Sam's gaze flicked around the room. Every desk had a nameplate. Each with a number. Like levels in a game. Or repetitions in a cycle. Derek F. 4 attempts. Jacob H. 2 attempts. Lila M. 12 attempts. Samuel B. His own tag was blank. The others had been processed. But not him. Yet. Time passed strangely here. The lights pulsed instead of ticking clocks. Each pulse brought a new sensation. A memory. A smell from the cafeteria. The sting of chalk dust. The feeling of being watched by a teacher who isn't real. At some point, the walls began to move, breathing, barely visible, like fabric stretched over something alive. Then, a door opened. A teacher entered. Except, they didn't walk. They glided. Feet never touching the floor. They had no face. Only a blank, porcelain-like surface with the faint impression of where eyes should have been. A tie floated slightly in an unseen breeze. Their ID tag read. Subject Instructor Betano. Function, realignment/sentence looping. They stopped at Sam's desk. And spoke in perfect monotone. Subject not indexed. Assigning behavioral mirror. Sam felt his own name being pulled from his mouth. Not words. Something deeper, his pattern, the essence of who he was at this school. The lights dimmed. The teacher reached into their coat and pulled out a mirror. Not glass. Metal. Polished. Buzzing. It vibrated in time with his heart. And when Sam looked inside, he saw himself. But not this self. A version of him slamming a locker door. A version of him setting a fire. A version of him sitting alone in a cafeteria, whispering something over and over. I won't forget. I won't forget. I won't forget. Then the mirror cracked. The classroom snapped out of focus. All the students were gone. Except one. Emily. She looked straight at him now. Her voice was clear. Soft. Terrified. You're the original, aren't you? Sam blinked. What? She stood, trembling. The first one. The one that escaped before the system went live. You're not supposed to be back. Behind her, the porcelain teacher turned its head. Slowly. Too slowly. A low alarm began to whine. The words on the blackboard changed. Removal protocol initiated. Samuel B. Unsafe copy detected. Emily grabbed his wrist. We don't have long. The next bell isn't for dismissal. It's for erasure. And in the ceiling above, a vent opened. Wind whistled through. And in it, Sam heard a voice. His own voice. Whispering. Time to go. Time to forget. Time to begin again. The vent tunnel was too narrow for comfort, yet somehow, Sam fit. Emily moved ahead of him like she'd done it before. Crawling, breathing, listening. Every turn brought a change in sound. A crying student. A locker door slamming endlessly. The unmistakable scrape of chalk being written in a language no one should understand. Then, silence. They dropped down into a small room. No lights. Only the glow from a single CRT monitor, buzzing in the corner like an old heartbeat. Filing cabinets lined every wall. Black. Rusted. Labeled. Suspended students, not to be returned. Failed realignments, retained for archiving. Corrected cases, replacement initiated. In the center of the room sat a desk. Covered in folders. Blood-red ink. Black seals. Burnt edges. Emily walked straight to it. This is where they keep the logbooks. Every student who's ever changed. She pulled open a drawer and removed a heavy binder. The cover was scorched, and the spine broken. Stamped across it. Guidance Counselor, Mrs. Hemming, permanent file. Sam blinked. Mrs. Hemming. She was the counselor everyone trusted. The one who told you secrets were safe. Until she vanished. Emily opened the logbook. The first page wasn't written in pen. It was scratched into the paper, as if someone had used their fingernails in the dark. They told me to listen. So I listened. And now I hear everything. Too much. The lockers speak. The bells lie. The students forget because they have to. Flip. Another entry. They're building new Sams now. Each time he tries to run, they make another. But the first one, the original, he left something behind. Sam's throat went dry. Emily found a second file. His name on the tab. Not Sam B. But Samuel B. Origin Unit / Anomalous Memory, do not erase. The pages inside were water damaged, but one still held shape. A schedule, a list of corrections, and a line at the bottom. Phase 4, self-recognition failure, expected after 20 recursions. If not achieved, trigger guidance reset. Initiator, Emily S., copy B. He looked at her. Emily froze. She didn't blink. They made me forget, she whispered. They made you forget. The CRT screen buzzed louder. On it, a grainy image flickered to life. A security feed. The hallway outside the room. A figure was approaching. Long limbs. No face. Floating necktie. It's the guidance proxy, Emily gasped. It comes to finalize the loop. If it sees you, if it speaks your name, it starts over. The screen fuzzed. The speaker crackled. A whisper filtered through. Samuel. Version unknown. Please remain still for adjustment. The door handle began to turn. Emily shoved a metal drawer aside, revealing a crawlspace beneath. Come on. Before it logs you again. But Sam didn't move. He was staring at the monitor. Frozen. Not with fear. With recognition. The image shifted. On screen, another Sam. Standing in a guidance office. Mrs. Hemming sitting across from him, smiling gently. And behind her, a mirror. Reflecting this Sam. Watching through time. The speaker whispered again. Memory relink established. Samuel B. is watching. Prepare for merge. Emily yanked him into the floor just as the door opened. A hiss of cold air followed them down. In the darkness beneath the office, Emily whispered. They're not deleting you. They're stacking you. Layer by layer. One Sam on top of the next. Until the original can't breathe. Sam clenched the folder in his hand. Somewhere in here was the truth. But to find it, he would need to go deeper than any student ever had. The crawlspace led them under the old gymnasium, a place long abandoned after structural concerns forced its closure. But everyone knew the real reason. You could still hear things beneath the bleachers. Sam and Emily emerged into the boiler chamber just below the gym. Warm air brushed against their faces, but it wasn't heat. It was breathing. Rhythmic. Hollow. Mechanical. Like lungs that had never been alive. The space was wide, but the ceiling low. Chains dangled. Dust floated like ash. Everything smelled of mildew, copper, and something electric. Emily lit a flashlight. Its beam immediately caught on a pair of shoes. Black, polished, and not touching the ground. She whispered, "They're here." The teachers who don't breathe weren't listed on the staff directory. They weren't seen during the day. They didn't speak, teach, or punish. They absorbed. Students who spoke out, who remembered the wrong things, who tried to open the wrong lockers, all absorbed, disassembled, reassigned. They glided through darkness, tall and soundless, dressed in the same uniform. Black suit, chalk-white shirt, no name tag, no face, only the creak of coat fabric brushing the walls. Emily pressed her back against a pipe. Sam ducked beside her. One of the teachers passed just inches away. Its face was blank, just slightly sunken in, as if something had tried to draw features on clay and failed. It stopped, tilted its head, sniffed the air. But it did not breathe. They don't detect carbon dioxide, Emily mouthed silently. They detect sound, thought, memory fragments. Sam's heart thundered. He tried to silence it. The teacher floated on, vanishing through the wall, not a door. Through it. Emily waited a long moment before speaking. I saw them once before. I thought it was a dream. But the school made me forget. Every time I got close to remembering, they sent them. Sam looked down at the folder in his hand. It pulsed softly now, like a heartbeat trying to sync with his own. Inside it, another page had surfaced, one he hadn't seen before. A blueprint. Not of the school, but of something beneath it. Facility A, the foundation layer. Access point, gymnasium subfloor, hidden behind wall panel 6B. There was a note scribbled across the margin, in blood-red ink. Only originals can open the path. Only they hear the whisper. Sam turned to Emily. We have to go deeper. She nodded, then stopped. Footsteps. Multiple. Not from above. From behind the pipes. The teachers who don't breathe weren't alone anymore. A shape stumbled forward. Human. Disoriented. Another student. No. The figure stepped into the light. It was Sam. Again. But his skin was slightly translucent. His eyes hollow. His mouth open in an expression of endless, silent screaming. Another copy. This one broken. Emily gasped. They've started spawning iterations. You're unstable to them now. The copy reached out, touched Sam's face, and whispered in his own voice. Let me in. I remember the fire. I remember the scream. I remember what you did to her. Sam stepped back, trembling. Emily grabbed his hand. Don't listen. It's echoing your memory fragments. It's trying to become you by force. But it was too late. Behind them, a wall creaked open. Not slid. Not unlatched. It breathed. A hidden panel, marked with a whisper-shaped indentation, opened like a mouth. Inviting. From inside, a stairwell spiraled downward, lit only by flickering red emergency lights. Above, the footsteps of the breathless teachers closed in. Emily looked at Sam. "We go now. Or we stay here and get copied into nothing." Sam hesitated only a moment longer, then stepped into the whisper. The stairwell spiraled endlessly. Each step downward felt heavier. The lights flickered less like electricity, and more like breathing. In and out. Pulse and pause. Sam gripped the folder tighter. Emily moved quietly beside him, her hand grazing the wall, reading it like Braille. "We're below the blueprints now," she whispered. "This place wasn't designed. It grew." The air changed. Colder. Denser. They stepped off the final stair onto a floor made of glass tiles, beneath which were hundreds of ID photos. School portraits. All from different years. All faces blurred. Each tile marked. Failed. Retried. Archived. Emily didn't step on any of them. Ahead was a massive steel door, half rusted and vibrating faintly. Sam approached. A small slot slid open at eye level. No face. Just a void. Then a voice. Not a whisper. A chorus of whispers. Original detective. Samuel B. recognized. Input phrase to verify continuity. Sam blinked. What phrase? Emily stepped forward. Try what was written on your first page. In the logbook. Sam took a breath. I listened. And now I hear everything. The door unlatched. They entered Foundation Layer Alpha. A cavern. Not man-made. Part school. Part something else. The walls were lined with old classroom furniture, fused together like coral, desks grown into pipes, chalkboards etched with indecipherable formulas looping on themselves. Overhead, suspended in glass tanks, floated students. Hundreds. Their eyes moved but didn't blink. Their mouths moved but made no sound. Each one had a nameplate. Each one read. Iteration of Samuel B. Memory divergence level. Emily stepped forward and touched one tank. The student inside looked back. She gasped. It's you. A version of you that never left the guidance office. Sam walked past rows of tanks. Each one showing another him. One smiling. One sobbing. One covered in burned scars. One completely blank. At the center of the cavern was an altar made of lockers. Melted. Twisted. Painted in chalky red symbols. Atop it sat the bell. It wasn't metal. It wasn't real. It was a shape that made your mind ache to understand. Sam approached it. It pulsed. Not light. Not sound. But intention. Emily stopped him. The bell rings twice. Once when you're born, and again when you finally remember who you were. He looked down at the folder in his hand. It burned now. The final page had surfaced. It was his own handwriting. If I made it here, then I'm not afraid anymore. I remember the fire. I remember what the counselors did. I remember Emily screaming. I remember why I stayed silent. But I won't let them reset me again. If you're reading this, ring the bell. Just once. Sam reached out. His fingers touched the impossible surface. A hum built around him. From the tanks. From the walls. From the other Sams who still floated above. Then he rang it. Bong. Reality shifted. The cavern screamed. The tanks exploded with silence. The lockers rattled like bones. And above them, the school shook. The entire institution felt it. The whisper locker fell silent. Sam collapsed. Emily caught him, tears in her eyes. You did it. You cracked the loop. You broke the recursion. But then, a second sound. Not a bell. A voice. Not from a tank. From inside Emily. It whispered. Recursion broken. External shell breached. Memory host compromised. Initiating emergency overwrite. She looked at Sam, eyes wide with horror. Sam. I'm not the original. I think. I never was. Emily stumbled back, her hands trembling. Her skin flickered, not just with fear, but with code. Lines of crimson light traced her veins like circuit maps. Her irises pulsed with command line errors. Sam backed away, the bell's reverberation still echoing in his mind. What's happening to you? Emily's voice sounded doubled, one layer warm and human, the other glitching, mechanical. I thought I was real. I thought I had a choice. But I'm a memory host. I was assigned to observe and contain you. She blinked, tears trailing down her cheeks like static. But I loved you anyway. The walls around them melted into something non-physical. The foundation layer began collapsing, revealing pure memory code underneath, flashing school records, laughter in classrooms, locker combinations, and trauma reports. A lifetime of buried data. From the tanks above, the other Sams began vanishing one by one. Each time one disappeared, Emily flickered. Sam opened the folder again. There was no paper now. Only a loading bar. Final decision protocol, 99% complete. What is this? He asked, turning to her. Emily held her head, screaming softly as binary streamed from her mouth. You're not meant to choose. You're meant to forget again. Restart. Repeat. Be safe. No, Sam said. No more loops. The bell at the center of the chamber began ringing on its own now, distorted, stretched, like a sound dragged underwater. Bo, oh, ong. Reality cracked around them. They stood not in a cavern, but in a simulation room, a lab beneath the school, surrounded by black monitors, blinking with unreadable glyphs. Wires hung from the ceiling like vines. And in the largest chair, connected by hundreds of cables, was Sam. His real body. Unmoving. Asleep. "This is the true whisper locker," Emily said, her voice almost gone. "The original memory vault. The experiment. The recursion. And you're the administrator," Sam realized. "You wrote me into this." She nodded. "We needed a story that could hide the truth. We gave it fear. We gave it myth. We gave it me." "Why me?" Emily looked at him, her glitches slowing. "Because only the real Sam would question everything. Only the real Sam would try to ring the bell, just once." The folder in Sam's hand dissolved, leaving only a message hovering midair. Option A, wake up. Destroy the system. Forget Emily. Option B, stay. Let the simulation continue. Save her. He looked at her. She was fading. "If I wake up, you'll be gone." Emily nodded. "I was never meant to last. But you were." Silence. Not fear. Not code. Just choice. Sam stepped forward, reached for her. "Then we break the story. Together." He walked to the bell again. But instead of ringing it, he crushed it. The room shattered. Monitors sparked. The tanks imploded. And Emily smiled one last time as her body turned to golden dust. "Goodbye, Sam. Thank you for choosing something real." Sam awoke. He was on the floor of the old school, just outside locker 33B. Morning light filtered in through the broken windows. The school was empty. Quiet. The whispers were gone. No folder. No file. Just a single note inside his pocket. Scrawled in handwriting he didn't recognize. The bell rang twice. But you rang back. And that made all the difference. He looked up. Smiled. And walked away.